A question I always get is whether you can change a trust. And so today we're going to talk about it. Let's get into it. All right, can you change a trust? So that can mean a lot of different things. So just a quick background reminder, there's two types of trust. There's a revocable trust and an irrevocable trust. So in general, people will tell you that you cannot change an irrevocable trust. It's irrevocable, therefore you can't revoke it. A revocable trust is a trust that you can revoke. Now, this is a little misleading when we talk about an irrevocable trust, because an irrevocable trust actually can be changed. I'm not going to focus a lot of time on today's video related to that. What I want to talk about is a revocable trust. So often people will ask, can we change a revocable trust? Usually we're using a revocable trust for purposes of avoiding probate, streamlining administration, making sure that if something happens to one of the beneficiaries or the trustees, that we have a plan in place to make the assets very easily accessible and be able to pass without having to go through much of a legal process. So the idea there is that you have this revocable trust. It is as flexible as a trust can possibly be, because you retain the right to the principal, the income, the ability to change the provisions of the trust, the ability to revoke, hence it's a revocable trust, and also the ability to restate the trust. And so often when people change the provisions of a revocable trust, they'll create what's called a codicil. A codicil is basically just an addendum of a document that you just put on the top. So it may say, we executed this revocable family trust on January 1st of 2025. And this particular provision, Article 1.01, states XYZ. And it may be that you want to completely replace that one provision, that one Article 1.01. And so in the codicil, you would say, we are replacing Article 1, which states the following, and we want to then replace it with this following language. And so it may say that, I don't know, so-and-so is the beneficiary, and we're removing that one particular person as a beneficiary and replacing it. I mean, there could be a lot of different things you might change. It could be the way that distributions are made to the beneficiaries during their lifetime, or maybe when they pass away. It could be that you're updating the trust to move it from one trust jurisdiction to another trust jurisdiction. We see this a lot when maybe somebody's moving to a different state, or it could be even a different country. I don't like codicils, and I don't like codicils for a few different reasons. I would say that often I get contacted by people who are like, hey, can we do a codicil here? And there's a few reasons why I don't like codicils. One, it's kind of a loose piece of paper that's just sitting on top of the original trust document. I think it's very easy to lose the codicil. It's easy for it to get lost in the shuffle of papers. Maybe it doesn't get stored with the document, and that's how it really has any precedence, is that it's going to be sitting on top of the original trust document, and it's going to state that it was executed after the original trust document. It's going to be a codicil, meaning it's going to replace that particular provision that it's setting out to replace. So I don't like it because, one, I think it can get lost. So that's kind of like a practical reason. Two, I personally don't want to be responsible for another attorney's work. So if you lived in, say, California and you moved to another state, maybe Texas, where I'm located, or South Dakota, where I'm also licensed and do a lot of trust planning, then I don't want to be responsible for the planning that your attorney in California did when you moved to, say, Texas. So what I would do, the way that I like to operate, is that I would restate your revocable trust. Now, that doesn't mean that we're starting, it kind of does mean that we're starting completely anew with a new trust. It also means that we're not starting completely new with a new trust. What I mean by that is the trust that we're going to restate, we're restating your original trust. So we're going to keep the name of that trust that you created. We're going to restate that trust, and we're going to replace all of the information that was originally in it. So if you were in California, you moved to Texas, we don't want anything that was applicable to California law. We want to make sure that everything is applicable to Texas law. So let's scrap, whatever word you want to choose, everything that we previously had done, and start with a new document that has the same name. So now it's going to be called the Restated Smith Family Revocable Trust. It's restating the trust that you did 10 years ago. So I think it's cleaner. You don't have to worry about a codicil. And the other nice thing is that rather than creating a completely new trust that has a new name, you keep the name of that original trust. Therefore, you don't have to retitle assets in the name of a new trust. So one of kind of the, I don't want to call it a con, but sometimes people will ask me, what's a con of having to do trust planning? And one, I should say, hurdle is implementation. So when you put together a trust, you need to fund the trust with assets or title assets in the name of the trust. So when you restate a trust, you don't actually have to move any new assets or retitle assets in the name of the trust because you're keeping the name of the original trust. So as a quick overview, yes, you can change a revocable trust. You could do a codicil. I don't like codicils because I think there's practical reasons that they can get lost. I think it can get messy. And then also, I don't want to be responsible for another attorney's work, or maybe it's great work, maybe it's bad work, I don't know, but I just don't want there to be any confusion. And then lastly, the restatement makes it really easy to continue with the assets that were already placed or funded, titled in the name of that original trust. So make sure that you're doing a restatement rather than a codicil or completely starting over from scratch. The restatements really are the easiest way to change a revocable living trust.